Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Kim Piazza.
And I'm Phil Arno. And all of us in Western New York are concerned about our budgets. We have to spend money to keep a roof over our heads, to pay our electric bills, to put our kids in school, and it's always a struggle. And the same thing goes for our county government, our state government, our local government. Our guest today, Ed Rath, has had success in the private sector, and he's also had success in 5 terms as Erie County legislator. He's here to speak to us about the county budget, which has just been proposed.
Indeed it has, yes. We got the county budget from the county executive on October 15th, as is required by the county charter. And right now, me and my 10 other colleagues in the legislature, we are studying the budget, getting ready for budget hearings, which start on November 9th. This is really one of the most important functions that we do as your county legislature.
I heard the budget did what it does every year.
It shrunk? No, that's something else. The budget, oh, look at that, 1.6 billion with a B dollars. Well, I just happen to know that that's spending. Now, I'm just talking about spending is about $1,700 or close to $1,800 per every man, woman, and child in Erie County. That's a lot of spending.
Spending per person?
That's right.
Per person.
Per
I
person.
thought it would be high. I have to say, I thought it would be higher.
That's still a lot of.
Well, it is a lot of money.
I thought it would be much higher than that.
The county budget, what it is a set of priorities, if you will, as well as a plan for us to provide our services across Erie County government. And again, this is the proposed budget from the county executive, and we now do our work to analyze and study each and every department, find out exactly where all this spending is going to be prioritized for next year, and determine if it's the right decisions. The county executive makes the proposal, and then we decide if that's the right proposal or if we need to change it.
Now the first thing that comes to mind, for me, is when you get into 1.6 billion dollars
with a B.
There's got to be, in that amount of money, there's got to be waste. I mean,
that's inevitable.
In any bureaucracy, and if you can save 5%, that's a huge amount of money. How closely, hold up the budget there.
Here's the budget right here. Okay. This is 550 pages.
Easy reading.
Easy reading, that's right. But don't start at late at night.
Be honest with you, does anybody actually go over that line by line and study every penny that's being spent?
We do. We have each and every department come in and talk to us at the budget hearings. We study it line by line ahead of the budget hearings so that we can then ask questions and find out specifically where all the revenues are coming from, where all the expenses are being allocated, and if it is in fact the proper allocation of those revenues. One thing to note in this budget, which is a $1.6 billion budget, almost 90% of this budget is what's called unfunded mandates. So what that means is the federal government and the state government are telling us this is a service that you need to provide for us, and you need to figure out a way to pay for it.
Now, see, that's one of the most classic political tricks that government plays on people.
Right.
Are we really going to call that a trick, though?
Well, it is because they tax you a certain amount of money, but then they turn around and they tell you how to spend other portions of your money so that they can say, well, we only tax you this much, but in effect they're telling you, we're taking this much, but we're telling you how to spend that much. It's all taxes.
At the same time, there are things that need to be mandated. There are things, we all want a police department, we all want a fire department,
you know what? It's all part of the same budget, and no offense to our legislators or our bureaucrats, if you will, but when I was in Los Angeles, for instance, and I'll give you that example because we had a
didn't they go bankrupt or something?
We had a situation in Los Angeles where they were cutting the budget, and they threatened to take police officers off the road, and they threatened to stop garbage collection, and they threatened to let prisoners out of the holding center because they were
broke.
They were broke, okay? But what they didn't do is they didn't threaten to stop taking trips to the sister city in Japan.
Right.
They didn't stop. They didn't threaten. They didn't say, you know what? If we don't get a tax increase, we're going to stop giving ourselves a pay raise.
One of the things that's fascinating about the budget is that about $300 million of that $1.6 billion is discretionary spending. All the rest of it, unfortunately, we have to provide those services and we have to pay for it. So we don't have the chance to really alter those services. But under discretionary spending, there's some very important things in Erie County. For example, the sheriff's office. Everyone loves the sheriff's office and the services they provide. That's a very high priority of ours, to the tune of about $125 million a year. In addition, some of our other important discretionary money is Department of Public Works. Fixing our roads, fixing our bridges, taking care of our parks. That department is about $50 million. So right there between those two, we've gotten close to $200 million already of our discretionary spending.
Of which you've allocated 300.
Of which we've roughly 300, that's about right, of the money that we can actually impact and make decisions on. But there's some other core services that the county provides that the residents of Erie County look forward to, such as our library system. We spend about $25 million a year on our library system. Erie Community Colleges, the three colleges, if you will, or the three campuses, that's about another $25 million. And the medical center, that's about $20 million we do. So you can see that the numbers add up very quickly for how we're allocating our resources and the core services that we're providing. But what's very important to me is that, number one, we provide those core services in an efficient manner and in a business-like way, much like I do in my private sector business, but also we're respectful of the taxpayers and respectful of businesses. It's very easy for government to raise taxes. It's more difficult to lower taxes, which we did last year for the first time in 11 years.
Well, that's unheard of, because government doesn't lower taxes. That's unheard of.
Well, you know, I can remember things that were called temporary, like sales tax increases and tolls on the thruway. And you know, when government says anything is temporary, they have a different definition of temporary.
I agree with you,
It could
Phil.
be 200 years is temporary.
Well, it could still temporary.
It's
You know what? I don't mind paying taxes when I live in a community and in a county where I see the needs of my friends and family and even people that I don't know are being met. I mind paying my taxes when I'm concerned about things like how many government employees versus non-government employees, and is that money really going where it needs to go? It's obviously in a perfect world that $1,800 per person is going where it needs to be. And I know that for my family, I have a child with disabilities, and I have said over and over again, being in New York State, my taxes are high, but every penny I've paid, my son has gotten back.
Kim, you raise a very good point. It's one that I've actually been advocating for a long time, and that's looking to privatize services if possible. The government, there's certain things we absolutely have to do as a government, but if we can look to the private sector and privatize those services, a lot of times they can do it more cost efficiently as well as more effectively. So in general, I believe that the county needs to focus on privatizing some of these services where it's possible. And last year, the governor proposed a tax cap. And in that tax cap, he said that each municipality's budget has to go up either 2% per year or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. The rate of inflation right now is 0.7%. So Erie County has to raise its budget by 0.7% to be within the tax cap. But a big part of that tax cap is the fact that governments are encouraged to look to collaborate amongst town governments and county governments, as well as look to privatizing services, so that eventually we're lowering the overall cost of government, because government does get very expensive very quickly, and we need to find creative ways to lower those costs.
just to be clear, correct me if I'm wrong, but the governor recommended a tax cap on taxes that he doesn't benefit from.
That's exactly right, and that's what's extremely frustrating, Phil, because they recommended a tax cap that the state doesn't impose, that the counties impose. Here's where it gets even more irritating.
He didn't want a tax cap on
On
state income tax or anything like
What's
that.
good for the goose isn't good for the gander, right?
Right.
Isn't that what we're talking about?
You're absolutely right, Kim, and here's the challenge. The challenge is the fact that they said you can only increase your spending by this amount, but they didn't lower the unfunded mandate burden on the back end of it. So the unfunded mandate costs are going up, but you cannot raise the cost of your government to go in tandem with that. It should work the other way around, where unfunded mandates come down.
But
this
of
is what
course,
we've been advocating
we have
for.
brilliant, talented, intelligent politicians who
Thank
can
you.
find ways to deal with that, can find ways to use money in maybe more efficient ways. I know I'm like, what am I, who, in what universe, right? But you know, you would hope that we have politicians who are intelligent enough and creative enough to find ways to use money better.
And I know of some land that I can sell you down in.
Yeah, well, we'll be back.
Really nice
We'll
stuff.
be back, Western
Yep.
New York, with more on money.